Reporting from Gen Con 2017, I'm here with Patrick, who is demoing a game called Mistborn. It is based on a series of novels and a role-playing game, and the board game that has derived from it is designed by Kevin Wilson. And if I understand correctly, the game is being released here for the first time.
Yes.
Excellent. So what can you tell us about the game?
So Mistborn is a world where you have a Lord Ruler who controls everything. In the board game, you're actually playing nobles that answer to the Lord Ruler. And so the idea is that the Empire is in the state that it was in the original novel. Things are falling apart. People are causing problems like Vin and clubs and characters from the novels. And you, as nobles, are trying to solve those problems. Every house has a limited number of resources, and every problem tends to require more resources to solve than an individual house has, so you have to work together. But it is a competitive game, and so at the end, only one person can be either closest to the Lord Ruler if the Empire is preserved, or furthest from the Lord Ruler if the Empire collapses.
And knowledge of the role-playing game and the novels is not required, I assume, as long as you want to play a game about solving problems. And
we made a conscious effort to playtest this with people who didn't know the novels.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so that they would understand the basics of the game and could understand the basics of the game without knowing the setting.
So that's how the game looks like when it's set up and it's actually being played, right? So
That's
can you
correct.
give us a general sense of how the game works?
So, and I'll use my hands to point things out.
Sure, perfect.
So we have a very long board, and in the center you have this grid of 3x4 that in this deck here, which is a problem deck, and that's where all of the problems come from that you are having to solve. There aren't any out now, but one of these problems will come out, and they start at a column that matches what's on the board, and then they march across every turn. And if they get to the end where that problem's or up space is, this bad thing happens, and generally it's bad for one or more players. So part of the game is actually you controlling...
But not necessarily for all.
Not necessarily for all. And part of the game is controlling when and how these problems erupt. Because if they erupt on your turn, you can actually control a little bit where the problems go. The other half of the game is a free-form negotiation where you're trying to barter resources you have with the person that is controlling negotiation for the turn in order to get the most favor out of it. Or if you're playing the spoiler game and trying to ruin the Empire, to actually have the least favor or the most disgrace at the end of the game.
And so how do you perform actions, gather resources, spend them, so on and so forth?
So your turn is actually going to be, you collect resources, you move problems across the board, you add new problems to the game, and then you have a miniature. 1 second. We have these gorgeous miniatures that we have created based on characters from the novels. This is a Steel Inquisitor, and on your turn you get control of this, and you can either place it on one of the problems on the board, indicating that that's a problem you want to try and solve, or you can pass and just collect resources and let problems get worse. Once you put it on a problem, the entire board becomes, the entire table can negotiate freely to try and solve that problem. And anything that you offer to solve that problem and anything that is agreed upon, any conditions of that deal that are agreed upon must be binding if they are something that happens this turn. But one of the tricks of the game is that sometimes you can offer things that you won't actually fulfill until later in the game. Those are not binding, and you can actually lie and go back on them. And there's a personality card in this deck. This deck is where all the special abilities exist, and you've got a variety of characters you can hire. One of them is
Can we see some of them, just to get a sense?
So we have haze killers that can kill other personality cards. We have thugs that actually make problems easier to solve. You hire them and they go in and act as resources.
Soften things up.
Exactly. And there is a card in here, which of course I'm not going to. We have Mistborn, of course, which are they solve problems, but they do it very, very well. We have Adium, which is a wild resource, and they can use that. I do not see it in here immediately, but there's a card called the Obligate Er, and the Obligate Er is in the setting sort of a law keeper, and if you play that card, it forces the deals that you have made this turn to be binding for as long as they apply. So, and those could actually be played by people who aren't involved in the deal. So you can actually wind up with two people cutting a deal, one person thinking he's going to betray the other, and a third party saying, nope, you're both going to honor that deal forever.
Nice. How long does it take to play the game usually?
The short version of it is about 60 to 90 minutes. The problem deck is stacked in 4 bands, and there's a game-ending card in it. And depending on where you put the game-ending card is the length. The very super long version of the game for the hardest of the hardcore players is like 2 to 3 hours.
But this way you can tweak, you can kind of like, adjust the length to your liking. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for giving us an overview of Mistborn being released here at Gen Con. Will it also be available to the general public right after Gen Con?
Yeah, in November it'll be in stores.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.